Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of TVE versus Marvel versus DC. I am your host, Will Rohrig, the Keeper of Comics. Joining me tonight is Tyson Gifford, Editor-in-Chief of TVEnthusiast.
Hi, everybody.
And tonight we will be talking about the latest episodes of Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Arrow is still on hiatus for the week. So let's get started. Let's start with Flash, because this was kind of a big episode of the season for Flash. But not a lot of people liked it.
There's a few good reasons to have some issues with this episode. But there was also some good stuff to it, so.
There was.
I liked the whole kind of crime profile of Hunter Zolman and his backstory, and kind of like how prolific they made his murder career before he even became Zoom.
Yeah, like 27 people. Wow, okay. But, I like how they made his like backstory like kind of mirror Barry's.
Yeah.
Like a bit.
And they had that in the narration at the beginning with Barry talking about the things that helped him kind of be a good person, being like the support system he had in his life.
Yep. I thought that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was that was definitely, I think, the highlight of the episode.
Yep, that was definitely the highlight of the episode. Basically what happens, this is a big Zoom-centric episode. Basically what happens is Barry uses Cisco and his Vive powers, because Barry gets the idea from Reverb that Cisco is more powerful than he thinks he is. So Barry, with the help of Wells, gets Cisco to unlock some of his true potential, and he has Cisco open a portal to Earth 2. Zoom pops into Earth 1. Barry, using the tachyon machine that using the knowledge to create the tachyon machine that he got from Eobard when he went back in time, he uses that, and Barry is now a lot faster than he was, and he easily manages to outpace Zoom. He gets to drop on Zoom, capture Zoom after a bit of psychological warfare.
Yeah. That was really cool, the way the cardboard pop-ups just popped out and stopped him in his tracks.
Yep, stopped him in his tracks. Cause so they capture Zoom.
For about 3 seconds.
Yeah, for about 3 seconds, until you can't contain the darkness.
Which was kind of dumb, because it's like, you think they would have at least field tested, like Barry would have tried to destroy the thing on himself to see if it would come off or not.
Field test, no time for that. Jeez.
Just assume this thing is not going to have any way of breaking and stopping Zoom.
My plan is foolproof. It can never be. Nobody can ever defeat it. Yeah, a big problem people had with this episode is Barry is kind of an idiot in this episode. For example, Zoom immediately breaks free from Barry's trap, and the first thing he does is he kidnaps Wally, and issues an ultimatum to Barry. His speed for Wally's life. And what are they going to do? Oh, are they going to know Barry's just going to hand over his speed to Zoom, which he does. And then Zoom, like a super jacked up Zoom now. And also the scene when Zoom gets Barry's Speed Force coursing through him, he screams. That's actually really cool. That actor
he's orgasming.
Yeah, he's like, "Argh!" And it's that actor really hams it up in that scene. Holy cow.
He's having a quickening from Highlander.
Yeah. It's the quickening. But he does. As soon as he gets jacked up, he tries to kill Barry until Caitlin talks him out of it, and then he realizes, I'll just kidnap Caitlin. See ya.
I'm Ganos.
And I'm like, wow, okay. And it's like,
I know a lot of people had an issue with the way they kind of presented the idea that, like, so Hunter Zolomon is Jay Garrick too, and Jay Garrick is just like fake, and he never actually existed, and all this other kind of stuff. But like, I know that the creators of the show have said, like, no, we wouldn't do that to Jay Garrick. That's not.
Oh, Mark
Jay
Waid.
Garrick's not a baddie.
Mark Waid, one of the writers of the Flash comic books, he wrote a ton of Flash in like the 80s and 90s. He went on a freaking tear on Twitter over the idea of Jay Garrick being a supervillain in the show. He was upset, and that actually forced Greg. That little Twitter rant basically forced Greg Berlanti to show his hand and say, "Oh, we would never do that to Jay Garrick." Keep watching is basically the tweet,
which seemed obvious to me.
Which seemed.
I mean, Jay Garrick's almost certainly the Man in the Mask,
Yeah, that's why I've been thinking this whole time that Jay Garrick is the Man in the Mask. It'd be surprising. It's funny too because like they ask Zoom flat out, oh, who's the Man in the Mask? And he's like, oh, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. And I'm like, okay, try me.
It's not gonna be that shocking of a revelation, I'm sure.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But who knows? It'll be like, oh my God, it's Batman Ben Affleck.
Yeah. You wouldn't believe me. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Oh my God, it's Felicity. It's the real Felicity, the one that's not annoying. Holy cow!
It's Tony Stark.
It's Tony Stark. What the hell?
Nobody was going to see that coming.
Zoom said we wouldn't believe him. Wow. I love like the whole time like they're like working on transferring the Speed Force. Zoom is just like casually like telling them like all this information like about him that like they're asking him these questions and he's just answering them, like all casual and shit. And it's like
just like James Bond villain style.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, who's the guy? Well, that was a time remnant. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. What? Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that people were pissed off about this episode. And it's like, have you not been paying attention to Flash? like freezing laser beams and causing all presents to come together because they're made from the same material.
It's like, oh, I just got me from the past to agree to die for me. And then he says, brilliant plan. And I'm like, no, because you shouldn't exist right now.
Yeah. That's gonna need some splaining.
That's good. Well, what's sad is like that was the splaining for the earlier, but now the splaining's gonna need some splaining. So good job, Flash writers.
Let's move on from this mess.
Yeah. So basically, another thing like people were upset about was like because Barry like just gave up his Speed Force, like the writing thing is like, well, Barry's a dumbass. And I think that has like a lot of people upset because like he didn't think of a clever plan or anything. Now Zoom's stronger than ever and Barry is powerless. I mean, I think that makes an interesting scenario to create some tension and drama going into like the finale of the season. But also it's like, yeah, Barry is kind of a dumbass for doing that, isn't he?
Yeah. A dumbass of the first order.
Yes. So, speaking of First Order, let's move on to Legends of Tomorrow.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, nothing, because those two things have nothing to do with each other.
Exactly.
So, but Legends of Tomorrow, this was an okay episode. I wasn't too thrilled with this episode. This was like this was the episode where they had the time assassin go back in time to like kill everybody's younger selves, and they had to go back in time and like kidnap themselves and pull themselves out of the time stream to prevent them from being killed.
To the dumbest MacGuffin ability.
Yeah, I know. Oh, she can manipulate time around her because convenience. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, it was really dumb.
Yeah, that was like really dumb.
And all you had to do to overwhelm her was just kind of surprise her from one angle, and then all of it goes away.
The whole thing was dumb. Like the episode opens where they got this guy like in chains or something, and they're like, "We sentence you to die by killing your past self for no reason when we could just execute you right here." And I'm like,
yeah, we have to protect the timeline, so we're going to sentence you to die by killing your past self.
Yeah, I love that. Like their whole thing is like they're mad, like he's affecting the timeline, but let's just have an assassin that wantonly goes and changes the freaking timeline just to kill people. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That's not contradictory at all.
See, I think that's the biggest issue with Legends of Tomorrow is that if it wasn't taking its time travel, like, the seriousness of time travel so seriously, it wouldn't be these kind of like falters on the kind of issues with their execution of it wouldn't be such a big deal. But because they draw attention to it by going like, this is so serious, you can't do anything, to disrupt the timeline, and then they immediately do that stuff, it just shines like a giant spotlight on all the faults of the show.
It does. It really does. And this was such a lame villain, too. It's like she had zero. She was just like, well, that's my orders. I'm going to do it. She had like zero depth to her whatsoever. Like there was like nothing there.
And they go and mess up the timeline even more by pulling all of their past selves out of the time loop or whatever. The time whatever. I forgot how you referred to
the time loop. It was interesting seeing Quentin Lance in this episode. The most interesting thing about this episode was the character moments, like learning more about like Rip Hunter's history. And also learning, also the moments with Jax learning about his dad. I think those were the interesting, and also like we actually got like some character building with Heatwave, which I was expecting, so we learned like new things about like these three characters this episode, and those moments were the interesting parts of the episode. The rest of the episode is just forgettable, really. And now I didn't quite like understand the end. Now they have like their past selves out of the time stream.
So they don't care about the time loop at all anymore. Like none of it matters. Let's just tell everybody.
Let's just tell everybody time loops don't matter. What even matters more is like they have to hurry and stop Vandal Savage now before they're erased from time because they pulled themselves out of the time stream. Why not just put themselves back where they got them? I don't understand why they can't do that.
And why aren't any of them freaked out about the fact that they're going to be erased now?
Yeah. I don't know.
What was the point of saving them if they were just gonna?
Also,
none of it makes sense.
Yeah, if none of it. Also, Kendra was never in danger because she could just reincarnate.
So apparently, the assassin wouldn't even bother trying.
Yeah. So
even though that version of Kendra could still be killed, and it would stop her from being involved in that specific plot.
Yeah. There would just be another version of Kendra, so why bother?
And then, like, they can't go after Rip Hunter because, he did all this other stuff for time because he's a time master. He's too important. And then, but let's go after him anyways.
Let's go after him anyways. There's another part where Ray Palmer proposes to Kendra while he's, like, dying from being beaten up in the past by the Time Master. Did they kidnap Ray Palmer from that era? Like that never. They just
saved him, got him to a hospital, and then she gave up.
that was lame. Like, okay, so they had to kidnap everybody else, but they didn't have to kidnap Ray's younger self.
It's like they pulled teenage Mick from the timeline, and she didn't just bother to go back to when he was a baby and kill him.
Well, they explain that because they're like, oh, she only has one attempt on everybody because too many tries will really mess up the timeline too much.
just stupid.
Yeah.
More convenient plot maneuvering that.
Yeah, I know. Because they said, well, what will, they pulled Mick out of the timeline and they asked, well, what's to stop her from just going back a week before you pulled Mick from the timeline and trying again? And he's like, oh, well, too many attempts will disrupt the timeline too much. So they only got she's only got one shot at each of us.
I'd say that's not how time travel works, but since time travel doesn't exist in our reality, I can't. I assume that's not how time travel works.
Assume that's not how time. Yeah, I think they're just pulling stuff out of their ass as they go along.
You think it would either not have an effect, or it would have an effect no matter how many times?
Yeah.
No matter how few times, it would have the same major effect, or it just wouldn't have an effect at all. It doesn't really make sense that it wouldn't have an effect if they tried once, but it would if they tried. That makes no sense.
No, I know.
But then again, who knows? Maybe Berlanti has more experience with actual time travel than we do.
Well, that makes about as much sense as pulling yourself out of the past and then convincing yourself to get killed by your older self, and your older self still exists.
Well, what can I say? Bad time travel. And it's just going to stand out more with everybody doing time travel stories now. And it's going to, the fact that Legends of Tomorrow is failing so epically at it is going to just shine much brighter when every network has a time travel show.
They need to really, really hire better writers for this stuff. I think they're just, the people writing these shows are just lazy. They don't care.
Yeah, it's getting bad.
It's like,
and it's so sad because, as we've said before, season 2 of Arrow was so phenomenal, and then it's just, what happened? I mean, it makes me want to research it more and go
something happened.
Was there a top writer or somebody in that writer's room that left?
The quality of writing went down dramatically on all these shows, and I just don't know why.
I mean, some of it you could just attribute to the fact that they divided their attention across more shows. But it seems to me almost as if there was somebody in their writer's room that was shooting down bad ideas, and he's not there anymore. He or she, And it makes me want to kind of look into it and go is there somebody that was in that writer's room that's not there anymore after season 2 of Arrow?
Yeah.
So I might have to look into that and do a feature or something. Because that would be kind of interesting. But yeah. So what are your thoughts on Legends of Tomorrow so far as a season?
This is not the show I was hoping it would be. I was hoping it'd be fun and time travel, but you have to have logic behind it too. You can't just do whatever and expect people to buy it. I mean, there has to be consistency. There has to be logic. There is no consistency behind anything. It's all over the place. Even the Time Masters, their logic is inconsistent. They can't have one thing be consistent on this show. And
that's the real thing here, is that if they just didn't make it out to be such a big deal, if they weren't oh, you can't do this because it'll ruin this, or blah, blah, blah. If they weren't over preaching that aspect of time travel and being so annoying about that, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. The audience could just assume oh, well, we don't really understand how time works, but they do, so whatever, apparently it works out in some way. We just don't know what that is. But because they draw so much attention to it, it's just a giant spotlight on their faults.
Right. Right, exactly. So let's pop over to something I'm enjoying a bit more this season. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yep.
Which just had their big Secret Warriors episode, the thing they've been teasing since before like the episode started, like Secret Warriors. And okay, not as great of a thing as they were making it out to be. I mean, Secret Warriors just basically means a bunch of very inexperienced Inhumans.
The ending was good though. The ending of the episode was pretty epic.
The ending of the episode was epic. So basically, this was a cool episode because this really played off of like this whole idea of like paranoia and fear. Hive did probably the most villainous thing he's done all season this episode, which was he very cleverly found a way to divide S.H.I.E.L.D. And turn them against themselves. What happens is, as from like the end of the last episode, the entire team is in peril. Daisy comes up with this plan. She's going to unite the Secret Warriors, and she's going to go save the team with the Secret Warriors in tow. They do that. She unites the team, and she goes to the base. They actually capture Malik, and they go back. And then while Coulson is interrogating Malik, that's when Coulson gets the heads up to, Malik drops the bomb that Hive can infect Inhumans and make them loyal to him. Like, that's why in the past, Inhumans worshipped Hive as a god, because he was actually infecting their minds.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually a thing he did. At first, Coulson doesn't know whether to believe it or not, but Coulson, being a practical man, decides to take the threat seriously, even though like he can't be sure it's real. The source is an evil liar.
He takes the Nick Fury don't trust anyone approach.
Yeah, he takes the Nick Fury. Yeah, he learned from the best. Yeah, he takes the Nick Fury don't trust anybody approach. He locks down the base, tries to keep the Inhumans confined to the base while he tries to figure out who's been infected, and how to stop it, with basically zero leads or clues, or even like any way of starting to go about the process of figuring out who has been infected. Because he knows nothing about this. He doesn't know the signs or anything. They do have the body of a dead Inhuman who was killed during the mission. One of the bad guy Inhumans.
The guy with the Medusa eyes.
Yeah, the guy with the Medusa eyes. They have his body, and he has been infected to be loyal to Hive. He has been infected by Hive. So by performing an autopsy on his brain, they were able to discover the lesions and kind of get at least an idea of, first of all, to confirm that yes, this is a real thing that's happening. This is confirmation. And B, now they have something to go off of where they can now study it and figure out, what it is. And basically this is when and as soon as Coulson gets this information, that's when all hell breaks loose. The power in the base shuts down. Malik is killed. There's this very tense scene where Coulson and S.H.I.E.L.D. confront Daisy and the Inhumans, and there's a standoff, and then it gets like very, just very tense, like very 1984, like Big Brother, because now the Inhumans have holed themselves up in this room in the compound. S.H.I.E.L.D. is outside, just waiting for something to happen. like it's a huge standoff, and then the Inhumans start fighting amongst each other. Like they can't trust each other. They, so basically nobody is united at this point. And then finally Daisy convinces the Inhumans to go through a back door down this hallway that actually leads to a containment unit. Coulson is there. Mac finds this orb thing that Lincoln took possession of last episode. It's supposed to be linked to Hive in some way. I'm not sure how exactly.
That's a thing, yeah. I found it in the last episode. It seems like it's some kind of Kree tech, and the Kree created the Inhumans.
Yep, the Kree created it's Kree tech. So it's related to Hive. But Mac finds that among in Lincoln's things. And so Coulson comes to the conclusion that Lincoln is infected. Lincoln freaks out, he attacks everybody. They capture Lincoln and they lock him away.
It was pretty cleverly done because a couple episodes ago, they had the episode where it was the one with the guy who had precognition, and there was a scene where you saw like Lincoln kind of knocked out, and you saw Hive in the background of the shot, like walking away or something, and you kind of forgot about that, like you just kind of go like, oh yeah, you kind of get involved in the story and kind of move on, but they bring it up again when they're suspecting Lincoln as like that's when he was infected, not after, not in that one mission where they took off, but back then. During that one when Daisy was going after the precog guy. And so that was, I thought, really well done.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really well done, I thought too. And so basically what happens is we get to the end of the episode now, and we learn that Daisy has actually been infected by Hive, and she's fully on board the Hive train.
She's drinking the Kool-Aid.
And what she does is she leaves the base, and she's kind of like using her powers to now like collapse the base on top of everybody as she makes her exit. And, and that's kind of like where the episode ends. It's crazy. I'm excited to see where this goes now.
Definitely. It's continues to be great. It's cool seeing the heel turn, to use like a wrestling term, of a character.
Of Daisy. I kind of predicted it would be her. I figured that would be the most shocking.
The most impactful, definitely.
The most impactful, so I figured it was going to end up being her. They did throw that swerve with like the Lincoln reveal.
And that was like I said, that was a really smart swerve they pulled.
Yeah.
Because they gave really good reason, and they brought back something that kind of, I think, everybody forgot about, even though it happened fairly recently, as kind of damning evidence against him.
Yeah.
And they pressured him enough to make him start to get aggressive and fight back, which made him look more guilty.
Yeah, exactly. So you thought it was him at the end of the episode until Daisy revealed herself, and that got revealed. So that was smart.
A cool scene too, with Lincoln and Daisy talking, and Lincoln being like, "No, I'm not going to go with you. You're infected. This isn't you. This isn't what you're." And it's kind of like we got this kind of switch where Lincoln, who'd always been kind of like the rebellious Inhuman, is now kind of like all on board SHIELD, and calling Daisy out that you need to try to overcome this. This isn't you. You're being controlled. And Daisy being like, "You've always had issues with SHIELD and authority. Come with me." And it's like a good development point for Lincoln.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that was a good episode. Again, SHIELD, in my opinion, best episode of all the shows this week. What do you think? Continues to be. SHIELD has just been killing it this season. The writing has been smart and on point. I wish I could say the same for CW shows, but
Hey, but next week Arrow's back, so.
Oh yeah, so the best. No, I can't even. This has actually been the worst of the season, so not looking forward to that. Especially since I guess it's another Felicity focused episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this show is actually called Felicity now. So I mean that's it for TVE versus Marvel versus DC tonight. Did you have any comments, closing comments, Tyson?
If you watch Game of Thrones, we just recorded and will soon put up a impressions piece on the first episode of the 6th season of Game of Thrones, and we're going to be doing that weekly as well. So we're going to be doing them kind of back to back. So you'll see them kind of pop up at the same time. You'll see the Game of Thrones impressions as well as these videos where we talk about the Marvel and DC shows. So they're going to pop up kind of around the same time. Look forward to that. We also have the weekly set, which is our podcast we do every Thursday. It's up on Fridays. And on Friday, I record the week's news, which is we kind of recap the kind of big events of the week in news and put that together in kind of a quick segment. Nice. So you can check out all of that stuff on the site, TVEnthusiast.com, as well as any articles and news stories and other stuff that we put up through that time.
All right. Well, that concludes another episode of Marvel vs. DC vs. TVE. I was your host, Will Rohrig. Tyson Gifford joined me tonight, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.